Sam Seder, Emma Vigland on the Majority Report. Joining us now, Adam Green,
with a
co-founder of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee. And we should say, Adam, just before we start, just so that we can update people on this news, Frey has beaten Omar Fateh in Minneapolis in the final round of the ranked choice voting tabulations, 53 to 47. So very close, relatively speaking. And but Fateh not there, didn't quite cross the finish line. There was a lot of obviously headwinds for him. But be that as it may, let's talk about what lessons you took from last night. Obviously, Mamdani wins big, but we do see big wins for Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey. Spanberger won, I think, relative to past elections, she won like by the biggest margin in 40 years. Sherrill underperformed Phil Murphy from the same time in 2017, which I think is the most comparable, when we had Trump there, but she didn't underperform by much, but a little bit. But what's your takeaway from the way they won that is different from each other?
Yeah, well, first, just acknowledging that it was a good day for Democrats overall and a really bad day for Trump and his agenda of really hurting people economically. I think that came home to roost. But there's a choice ahead for Democrats about whether we want to kind of coast on this anti-Trump backlash in a way that was quite successful for Spanberger and Sherrill, and assume that will go on forever. Or do we want to make the investments now to build a durable coalition, which includes having an inspiring agenda, which really only Zohran Mamdani had of all the big winners last night? I mean, all of us were there actually in that room. The enthusiasm was contagious. It wasn't just people breathing a sigh of relief because the bad guys lost. It was genuine enthusiasm around a vision. And I saw the same thing when I was knocking doors yesterday, talking to people who just really needed help with their rent and with their daily cost of living. And we have to spend this time painting a picture for people of why the Zohran approach of actually having a vision that people can recite and name and get inspired by is much different from merely coasting off the anti-Trump backlash.
Yeah, Mamdani himself, we just played this clip earlier. He spoke of in that speech the conditions that allowed Trump to accumulate power, which of course predate Trump. I mean, so he's talking about the problems that exist that are distinct from Trump, but allow a Trump to rise. And this I found interesting from Mikey Sherrill. Let's play this clip. Do we have it? What number clip is this? It's number 6. This is how she closed her race, and I was really surprised to see this.
It's a good surprise, right?
It's a good surprise.
Yeah.
And, I think there was, some polling towards the end there where people are getting not necessarily worried, but thinking she's going to underperform quite a bit. She underperformed a little bit against Murphy, but, like I say, but a 13-point win is a significant win. But this is how she closed out, and I thought this was interesting.
I am fighting for you. I'm fighting for affordability. I'm fighting to get your costs down. I'm declaring a state of emergency on day 1, freezing utility rate hikes. I said last night, you know what? I'm not playing, right? I'm not doing a 10-year study. I'm not writing a strongly worded letter. I'm not going to convene a group. I'm declaring a state of emergency to drive your costs down. And that's just where it starts, because as I'm looking to the budget, I'm increasing that first-time home buyers program so you can get your foot in the door. Try to build your family's generational wealth. I'm taking on those landlords who are colluding to drive up your rental prices. Will my opponent do that? No. His biggest donor is one of those guys that's being investigated right now. So this is the fight. And at every single level, I have been willing to take on this fight, and I will fight anyone when it comes to fighting for the people of New Jersey. That's my...
I mean, she's freezing the electrical rates. She's going after the rents. She's looking for affordability. It seems like by the end she was adopting, at the very least, the rhetoric of Mamdani. Maybe not necessarily the policies, but the rhetoric, the way that people hear it, it sounds very similar, it seems to me.
And just a little something to add to that, there was a write-up of some of the data by, I think, G. Elliott Morris that pointed this out, that Union City, which is, I think, over 80% Latino, and that's important because Trump made gains with Latino voters on the question of affordability and in the last election. Basically, she flipped it, swung it by 53 points, Union City, versus Kamala Harris, who won it by 17 points, just showing how much has changed in the past year on the question of affordability, the buzzword that the Democrats are talking about.
Yeah. Well, I'm of a couple minds on this one. I think show not tell is the ultimate mantra that we should have. And if she's actually going to declare a state of emergency, AKA using power, not just having rhetoric, that's a good thing. And if it works, it can hopefully have ripple effects for all Democrats. And to your point before, the conditions that led to where we are now really fundamentally came from Democrats not using their power, right? Barack Obama got elected, brought the entire healthcare debate inside the Beltway, didn't leverage this massive army he had, a mistake that I don't think Zoran's going to make when it comes to governing. And the net result was deals with big pharma, subsidies to big insurance, not really challenging the fundamental structure of how insurance runs in America. And, drip, drip, drip. There's a little progress, and now we have to have subsidies here and there, but we haven't fundamentally made healthcare more affordable for Americans, right? And there's so many examples of, Joe Biden just kind of waiting for Joe Manchin to do the right thing, not wanting to challenge him, let alone the corporate donors that contribute to Joe Manchin or to other Democrats. So, yada, yada, yada. We need people to actually use power and challenge powerful interests. Now, the reason I say I'm of two minds, I'm not sure that I associate Mikey Sherrill with that line of thought. If she wants to be a Mikey come lately and actually do it, I'll be fine with that. But one of the things that I've just been learning over and over again is even when politicians that don't share our worldview say our words, that's not enough. We need people who actually mean it, can defend it, live it, breathe it, ooze it, and be believed by voters and also be believed by their opponents as a source of leverage. So I wish her luck in that if she actually does it. But I do think that we need people to actually have a worldview, a way of seeing power, a way of challenging power. And Zoran, to me, and obviously to you, is the high watermark right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line is we keep having these series of change elections every single time, and I'm looking at the data in terms of we know that 85% of the people who voted for Mamdani did so because they were pro Mamdani. They were not voting against anything other than for Mamdani.
Yep.
In Virginia, half the voters said they viewed the Democratic Party unfavorably. 18% of those unhappy voters backed her anyway. That's in Virginia. You have 22%, or I should say, the president's unpopularity is part of the mix. This is from Dave Weigel. His disapproval rating in both New Jersey and Virginia exit polls was higher than the vote for Kamala Harris last year. And that translated into votes for Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill, which is great in terms of we need to stop the Republicans in every place we can. But when we look down the line, we want Democrats to replace those. We want them either to win re-election, or we want Democrats to hold those seats and to hold the Virginia Assembly, et cetera, which means now they actually have to address those conditions. They have to use their power to do something. And the biggest indication, I think, of a politician who's going to do something last night, like, I don't think there's anybody who is in New York City who doesn't know like the 4 or 5 things that Mamdani has promised he's going to do and can judge him on that. And I suspect that unless he gets 3 or 4 of those, he's done after this. You know, like he's got to get, you know, hopefully all 5. But he's got to deliver on that. And he just laid it right out there. I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and then A and B, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I ran out of the... but that seems to be the big sort of like rub on some level.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, there was certainly clarity of message. I was on a panel in the UK a couple months ago, and it was impressed upon me that numerous panelists were like, we have no idea what our rudderless Labour Prime Minister stands for, but we can name all 3 of the top priorities of Zoran Mamdani from across the pond, right? Rent, childcare, buses. So the clarity got through. Your point is absolutely correct that he has to deliver, or at least, you know, try really hard and deliver most of it. I actually heard on the doors yesterday people saying, you know, I don't know if he's going to get everything he wants accomplished, but man, I believe he's going to try, and he's for us. He's not in the pocket of other people. And again, I don't think fighting enough is enough, but you know, if you win 2.5 out of 3, I think you'll get a lot of credit with voters for that. But just to take one more big picture step back, you know, the analogy that I, you know, have been thinking about today is about the Democratic Party as a car that's been sputtering on the side of the road for a long time, right? Our brand is bad, our popularity is bad. And I think we can just grant the fact that at least last night, being anti-Trump was sufficient to win a lot of elections, or at least the anti-Trump backlash was sufficient. I don't know if that'll be true in a year, but it won't be true forever. And the Democratic Party has a choice to make, as Donald Trump has just given us a quarter tank of gas to fill the car, well, to move the car, and we moved it really fast last night. Do we just kind of take it as long as it goes and then sputter out again and then lose to J.D. Vance and have worse fascism? Or do we refill our popularity? Do we refuel our agenda and actually build that durable coalition that will be there for the good times and the bad times? You know, if we're teetering around a 51% majority in good days, right? And every time we lose an election, we're back to fascism, and it gets worse and worse each time. I don't think any of us want to live in that country. So we need something bigger. And the only way to do that is to have what we saw in that room last night, which was a coalition that spanned race and income, geography within New York, people that voted for Bloomberg, who voted for Zoran. And we just need to build that as a Democratic coalition. So that's why I think that even as we choose our candidates this cycle, we should have in the back of our mind, is this somebody who actually believes in an agenda and will inspire voters to the polls, so we're not just dragging them to the polls against their will down the road?
And I think that what you're saying is so on point, and also why you see the Democrats that are in federally elected office are so lagging behind what we're seeing, even when, like, I don't love what Gavin Newsom's politics. I don't like them at all, actually, right? And even some of the trolling stuff, I'm not crazy about it. But at the very least, like, he's governing and standing up to Trump in that way. J.B. Pritzker, I think, is a great example as well, in terms of, like, you know, taking the fight to Trump in that way and telling people directly what he's going to do on that front. It feels like the Democrats that are making the most gains are distancing themselves a bit, or have distance from the leadership in Washington. And they're so much more comfortable just being stewards, right? Like, they want to basically maintain a system or have a government functioning. That's like primarily how they approach their politics, as opposed to saying, like, I have an agenda that I'm going to deliver on. And I think when the system is so broken that and people are so immiserated right now, they can't make our basic needs aren't being met, that the stewardship of a broken system is actually, like, deeply toxic to the party's brand. So the people that are elevating it are the ones that are saying, we're going to be proactive and do a different kind of politics and deliver on a proactive agenda that speaks to your needs. Like, that, the people that are still saying that a system should just be kind of maintained or worked with, they're the ones that are the threats to the Democrats electorally, not Zoran Mamdani.
Amen. Yeah, I mean, these institutionalists who are trapped in the past will be the death knell of possibly our democracy if they're allowed to lead the party for much longer. I mean, we're getting tea leaves and hints today from Washington that in the wake of gigantic anti-Trump victories last night, Democrats might be on the verge of caving on the shutdown, right? I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, by definition, it's like you just proved, like, whatever the plan was a month ago to get leverage and rally public support has been, it's come to fruition. The plan is going according to plan. Why cave now? But there's some people who are like, we just need to we made our point. Let's reopen the government. Those people are a problem.
Do you think, because we were getting those hints that there was a deal 2 days ago and yesterday, how do you think this win, it seems to me, it makes it much harder for Ossoff, I think is on that list, from Arizona, Mark, what's his name?
Kelly.
My brain's not working this morning. Kelly, obviously, like Shaheen, I think Mike who else do we have on the list of? The list escapes me, but
2026.
No, I'm talking about the Gang of Eight, the 8 Democratic senators who are in the mix of like
Angus King. There's a couple others, Maggie
King, and probably Nevada. They're going to look at these numbers. We just saw two Democrats win the first statewide elections in Georgia that Democrats have won in 20 years. 20 years. And, for on off-year elections, obviously Ossoff and I can't remember. Exactly. But how they can't come out today or tomorrow or the next day and say, we've caved, because like Democrats just ran the board. I mean, they won everywhere. I can't come up with a thing that Democrats lost across the country. I'm sure there's some races somewhere, but I don't understand how they could then cave to Trump in the wake of this. They have to wait at least another week until like people forget or something.
I encourage you to have more faith in Democrats' ability to cave. It's high. The force is strong. Of all the people you mentioned, the one I have the most hope for is John Ossoff, because I do think he has his finger on the pulse most among those folks. Though, again, we have a Capitol Hill lobbying team. I engage in these meetings, and I'm constantly reminded of how much a lot of these folks live in a bubble, right? These people who have been kind of cloistered talking to Republicans for the last couple of weeks, kind of think some Democratic socialists, one in New York. Like, I don't know that they are properly reading the tea leaves. We'll see. We'll find out. I really hope that for the benefit of everybody, the smarter heads prevail in this situation.
We just saw Spanberger win. Like, if you wanted a bigger, like, what's the biggest pressure point for Democrats here? It seems to me it's federal workers, right? And we just saw the Democrat win in an overwhelming fashion in Virginia. Yeah. I just don't understand, like
where all these fired federal workers are, right? Yeah, I mean,
how do you feel the pressure at this point? If you are a Democratic senator, you literally have to like keep your hand behind your back and bang yourself in the head with a bat to sort of feel like they're beating down the door on me, like
right.
Excuse me, I can see your hand. You're the one who's doing that.
Yeah, and as I'm sure you saw, Donald Trump tweeted late last night that there's 2 reasons Republicans lost. One, he's not on the ballot, but the other is the government shutdown. So he's pretty much telling them that's why we lost. Every once in a while, Republicans save Democrats from themselves. So we'll see if that has any influence at all in getting Republicans to, cut a deal that concedes some points to our side. But we'll see. We'll see where that goes.
Well, Trump wants to end the filibuster. That's what his argument is like. He doesn't want them negotiating with Democrats. He just wants them to nuke the filibuster.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah.
But if you're a Democrat reading the tea leaves, him saying that should inspire you to not cave, right? If
reading the tea leaves, it's reading this like a sign. It's not. You don't have to decode it. He's saying we lost. We are losing because of the shutdown. He's saying the shutdown's hurting us. Yeah. The Democrats have us over a barrel.
So we'll see where that one goes. I do want to address one other thing Emma said about Gavin Newsom, and I share, he's probably bottom of my list, if not even on my list of people that would ever be plausible for president in 2028, purely on authenticity grounds, before getting to any policy. But I grant the point that he's been, last night was a success for his gambit. And I think there's a tension that we as progressives feel and need to address about what do we do when people that we don't really feel as keepers of the flame are doing the right thing or agree with us on something. And Mikey Sherrill saying that thing about utilities is another example. And I guess the metaphor I would put out there is just talking about the ceiling and the floor within the Democratic Party. And what I would say about Gavin Newsom doing what he did, using power to fight back, fight fire with the referendum that we got the results of last night, is that represents the floor going up on Democrats' willingness to fight. Some of us were, feeling alone in the trenches 6 months ago, back during the Doge days. And, people like Chris Van Hollen got on board and Maxwell Frost got on board and Chris Murphy has been there the whole time. And it's been kind of a growing crew. And now it's like, okay, the floor within the Democratic Party has risen. That's the bare minimum, and that's good. Similarly with economics, those of us who are economic populists have been fighting with a lot of people over the years about how central fighting corporate power should be. And I think we're at a place where the floor has risen, where there's a rough consensus that appealing to working people has to be the centerpiece of what Democrats do. There's different theories and different willingnesses to challenge power and actually name villains, but at least we're all rowing in somewhat of the same direction. And the blue dogs of yesteryear who wanted to, cut social programs are not advocating for that these days. So we can grant those points, but then point to the ceiling. Point to Bernie, point to AOC, point to Zoran, point to the many, many volunteers and voters, record number of volunteers and voters that showed up in New York, and say, you know what? Wouldn't it be nice for all Democrats to aspire to that ceiling, even as we grant that the floor is rising? So I just wanted to put that out there as a way of thinking about things, because I don't think that we need to complain when Democrats do the right thing, and nobody here did. But I think we can acknowledge and then encourage, aspirations towards the ceiling. Does that make? What do you think
Kathy
about
Hochul is a good example of somebody who is in real time responding to pressure. We'll see how durable that is. And she has a primary challenge with Delgado, and he's nipping on her heels, and he hasn't really, I feel like, gotten a ton of national attention right now because she's kind of boxing him out by endorsing Zoran and staying close to him. But if she doesn't go along with his agenda, that's leverage he has over her, and he has a national spotlight on him now.
Totally.
Yeah.
Adam Green, I imagine you have also had very little sleep over the past 24 hours. Co-founder of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee. Thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you both. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.